welcome to the fashion show red carpet event for October of 2021. My name is Christie Ramirez and I am a soul coach and a spiritual teacher because I've done a lot of healing work and I've been through a lot of illumination that God has guided me to now be that teacher to the collective and share the insights that I get when I am in solitude, which is most of the time of my life. This is a huge hermit moment of my life and phase in my life that I wouldn't switch or change for anything because it's the most peace that I've ever felt in my entire life. And it's very interesting because you can be surrounded by a crowd of people and actually feel more alone than ever, which was what I was feeling prior to my awakening and prior to this new phase in my life after I turned 30. And it was only when I truly went within and started connecting to my higher self, my spirit guides, my angels, and God, that I felt more held than ever, more warm than ever, more secure in my life, more confident, no matter what's happening in the external 3D realm. Because again, this is the big illusion. And I do feel like, many people are still stuck in this matrix, which is very sad. Because actually, I understand the outfit. Remember, my wardrobe always has significance for the fashion show, right? And of course, we are in October, which is the month of a holiday that I don't really like to celebrate because I don't think it's of light, right? But it's the orange, also the falls, the leaves that turn orange from green to orange, right? Because it's that fall season. It's the fall. It's the winding down, the chilling out, the calm and the relax. And the other part that I was going to say, it's about removing the veil of illusion. And this veil of illusion is the 3D matrix. And this is how people are looking at through the world right now. They're very basically fogged up. They are seeing through a sheer cloth that is even black. So they're seeing through a very dark lens. And that's not the correct way to be on the spiritual journey, right? I'm being guided to a little bit lift it up because we want to see clearly, right? And this is a huge metaphor because when you start to walk this spiritual path, you are given this sort of responsibility to, first of all, stay in alignment, stay in your truth, and speak it and share it because you've been given now basically this job to be the light, to educate others about the journey, to see more beyond what they see. See through the spiritual realms, the ethers, which Einstein, Isaac Newton, and so many ancient physicists talked about in their work, their life work. It is real, okay? This ether is real. And that's what's happening behind the scenes. All of this spiritual chaos that is happening, believe it. There's a lot of darkness in the world that is shielding, right? But also masking the light. So the light is protected, is shielded. That's not the issue. The issue is that the collective, which is the majority of people, right? Because the people who are light workers are considered leaders of their own craft. And it's a certain few, believe it or not, because if everyone were a light worker, there would be no need for light workers. You see, if everybody were a leader, there would be no need for leaders, right? Because where would be the followers? So the majority of the collective, which every time I refer to collective, is the followers, okay? And I'm not a follower because I'm here sitting in leadership position and I always see above the matrix and I actually do not resonate with what the followers are following basically because I know that it's not the truth. And that's what happens when you start to walk your spiritual path. You cannot give in into anything that is not your truth. No matter how tempting or how persuading the followers might be. And it's very interesting because sometimes, followers are sometimes hard to distinguish, believe it or not, because there's such a thing as being a leader in the superficial platform, you can say, and then there's something different and distinct about being a leader on the spiritual level, on the spiritual platform, right? And it's kind of like how it was in the Renaissance era. You know, this painting in the back of me is by Botticelli, and he was an artist during the Renaissance time. And it was in the Renaissance time that there was a lot of persecution towards people who were spiritual and openly talking about it. So they had to find ways to subtly talk about it through their art, through their paintings, through their poems, through their books, through sometimes their speeches, although it was very, very limited back in the day, until Martin Luther King, more in the modern time, finally came up and speaks something about equality, right? He was a light worker, and he was definitely, you can say, spiritual, maybe, you know, maybe in his own personal life, but it's what helped to guide him in his professional life. And so, again, back to what I was saying, this is about unveiling the truth. And the theme that I came up for October 2021 is spiritual ascension. The light workers who have been watching my show and who have been just doing their work in their own personal life, whether or not you watch my show, are going through a spiritual ascension. And what this means, it's a complete 360 transformation, and it can feel actually very lonely because, again, there's not many people on the top of the mountain, right? And I'm not talking about the 3D mountain, which is how much recognition, notoriety, how famous you are, or how powerful you are, how much money you have. That is the superficial kind of success. I'm talking about the spiritual success. Those of us who have really, really been doing inner healing work, that's painful. A lot of purging, a lot of really honestly looking at yourself within and making the changes necessary to be in your highest love vibration. Even if it means letting things or people, situations go that are not resonating at this higher frequency, because that will affect and taint that frequency. And so this spiritual ascension that's happening during this month of October, come November, it's going to bring us into this ultimate solid leadership stance, okay? And it's so coincidental as well that November is always my month where I do my famous motivational speeches. I did one last year. It was like a 3-day event, and I also did my Lightworker University presentation. So expect to see a lot of more motivational speeches from me on November. And it's also very coincidental, you know, that was 2020 because we were all in lockdown. But in 2019, which was the year that I began my soul coaching business, I actually did do a public motivational speech. I got paid for it, and it set the stage for the vision that I was having for this business, this brand of mine, to speak the truth, to help people, to motivate them, and help them to just step into their light and their truth, because that takes a lot of courage. That takes a lot of assertiveness, setting boundaries with those who are not respecting that new vibration of yours, right? Which is the light. And just remember as well that being in the light, we have the most powerful force on our side, which is God himself. So that's the thing about once you step into your leadership position as a light worker, there's literally no more things to fear. Nothing can be feared because no human can compare to God's power. And this power truly comes from love and the ultimate guardianship that God wants for us, because we are doing the work, the mission, and we are needed. And this is a special time in history that we're at, which is entering this new earth, this new world, this new era that is golden. And we are at a very sensitive time right now, okay? Very sensitive because it's the transition phase. And I've been channeling this since 2020, but guess what? This is still going on. 2020 to 2022 is when the transition is still going on. And it's going to be between 2022 and 2024 that the new changes are going to be solidified. Power couples coming into true union for the mission, right? To inspire others to be the light, the love, the way showers. When actually the mission as well will be solidified and it will be successful. So many things that are going to come together that we've been working on since 2020. And it's exciting, right? Because I know that during the storm, it can feel very depressing, yes, but also unmotivating. God has given me these adjectives, but there's another word, like losing of hope. Very, like losing of hope. What is that word? It's like very, losing of hope is what I'm feeling, right? It can get there, you can feel like that when you don't see the physical manifestations of what it is that you desire, your dreams. And this is actually an empty gold journal that has dreams on it, and it's definitely something that we should work on. Is the blank pages to this new story of our life that is not even begun yet, and we have the power to write the story of our life. So why hold back? All right, so took off my gloves because I was gonna drink coffee, but as I was getting out, why settle for something that you don't deserve, right? When you know that you deserve better is what I'm trying to get at. And so it's a very powerful moment to really make the changes necessary to create the life of our dreams. And it's gonna take courage, it's gonna have risk, but you're gonna have to take that leap of faith. And God is wanting us to do that because that's what life is about. It's about faith. This is the test of faith in God, in a higher power, in your spirituality. And the more that we surrender into the unknown, the better things will be, actually. And so, yeah, this is what I'm feeling for this month of October. I was also gonna say, this month of October is also definitely about karmic justice, okay? Because we have just, as I am filming this, it's mid-October. So we're literally in that split between Libra and Scorpio season, okay? So I don't think that's a coincidence because it's helping me to more clearly channel the energy and what it's about, okay? And what I'm getting is that Libra is the judge, is literally the balancing scales. It's the justice, right? It's kind of like if someone was put in jail unfairly, an innocent that goes to jail and has spent many years in jail, eventually there will be justice. It kind of reminds me of the movie The Next 3 Days. That's a very powerful movie that makes me cry every time because poor woman had to endure all that solitude and that pain that it even made her want to even question suicide because she had nothing to literally look forward to be happy about, because she was about to be sentenced for life. And that was very, very karmic what happened, right? And it was not necessarily nobody's fault, but it was the system's fault for not looking into the situation correctly. And what happened was that they misaccused her because they missed details, and there were things after that gets discovered at the end of the movie that basically proves her innocence, right? But no one believed her in the moment. And that was sad because it broke her family apart. She had just had a baby boy with her husband, and her husband was loyal the whole time. And he was the one that saved her, risking his own imprisonment, right? Because he did very much illegal things to try to get her out, and he did get her out. And that's the kind of love, I guess we're going into a little bit like love show here, but that's the kind of love that we are after. It's just the spiritual kind of love that your partner would do whatever it takes to make sure that you're safe, happy, and well. And this is what's happening. This is this kind of karmic justice that's happening. Anything dark that's been standing in the way of joy, of love, of health, of wellness is coming to the forefront, because Scorpio season is ruled by the planet Pluto, and both of those rule hidden secrets. Anything secret and even in the dark, because that's what Pluto represents. It's the dark secrets. It's the last planet in the solar system, the farthest away from the sun. So it's very, very cold, meaning very, very dark, right? Because there's no sun to illuminate, no light. And that can be very sad for anybody in that vibration. But that is what's coming to the light. For healing, for resolution, and just for basically also cutting cycles. You know, if there's any connection to that kind of energy in our life with people, situations, it needs to be cut out, because this is the karmic justice and wheel that is coming for us to set this new cycle into fruition. This is harvest season as well, as we are in fall, autumn, which fall season goes well into November and December. So we still have a while in autumn, right? Because winter solstice is until the end of December, December 21st, which is one of my second favorite times of the year as well. I love autumn and I love winter. But if I were to pick, I think I love winter more, right? But the only thing is just too cold. So But that is a main point. Winter solstice is always a marking point every year for new cycles. And this year is no exception. And in fact, it's going to be an even more powerful one because we are stepping into 2022, which is about spiritual love partnerships, number 22. And we've been looking forward to this moment for a very long time. We've been in this waiting period since way before 2020, almost like a decade. We've been waiting for these dreams to come true. And there's just nothing stopping us, right? It's like anything standing in the way, you're not going to hesitate to push it aside because you've already been through too much. And all of us who have been doing the work, who have been good at heart and pure, deserve to be happy. And God knows this. And God wants us to believe in this and to stand up for our happiness. No matter what it takes, no matter where you need to go, what you need to let go of too. But you will find your happiness. And this is the karmic justice because I feel like a lot of people who are good, ironically, have not been happy. And you know, I love doing what I do. This is my mission, but this is not my personal life, right? This is a part of who I am, but it's not all of who I am. And I love absolutely what I do. And I'm so grateful every day for God giving me a job that I can set my own hours. I am the leader of my own show here. I am my own boss. I run my own finance as well. No one to depend on and no one to worry about, right? I trust my own self and my God and my angels. And this is a wonderful part of my time in my life, my career growth that's been happening since I've been 30, since I've been awakening to this spiritual kind of mission. And spiritual missions are something so powerful because nothing can stand in the way of that. This is God driven. And God has chosen me for this as well as other people to do other godly missions. And God will protect those people the most because we are at the right hand of Him. And anything that is trying to go against God, you know what happens, right? It's like the boomerang effect. It goes right back to that energy. It's like what comes around goes around. That's karma. And you know, this is, I guess, a reminder for everyone to always be good no matter what. No matter who hurts you, no matter who gives you a bad look, no matter who talks bad about you, it always comes back and the truth will always be revealed as well. Hence the Scorpio, right? The Scorpio energy. Truth will always come out because that's God. God is a miracle worker. And again, this brings me back to Jesus. This always brings me back to Jesus. But you know, Jesus was treated very unfairly during his later part of his years, right, here on earth. Because during his childhood, he had one of the most happy moments, actually. Before he was known as the actual Messiah. Before he was named and labeled the miracle worker, which actually was in his 30s. Okay, before his 30s, you know, if you all don't know the Jesus story, let's talk about it. You know, I think that today I'm gonna skip out on the reading and I just want to talk today, like have a conversation with you all, because I feel like I have a lot of knowledge right now to share and just God is wanting to just channel through me. And I didn't even write today's channel's message, but I will be doing a voiceover at the end of this video, so definitely stay tuned for that, and the cake design as well. I will be making a cake with my Christie's Divine Creations for this autumn season, and you can bet that it has to do with the theme of harvest. So let's talk about Jesus' early life, okay? Really sweet. And you know what, actually, before we get to Jesus' story, orange, which is a fall color, is also the color of the Sacral Chakra. Okay, and if you know about chakras, which I talk a lot about in my health and wellness brand, Body, Mind, and Spirit, I actually also wrote a book that's still under construction, but I will be publishing it sometime next year. And it's about all the 14 chakras. That's how I learned about it, by doing my research and then writing about it. And the Sacral Chakra is one of the most powerful chakras. There's a lot of powerful energy coming in here. It's intense, it's feisty, it's passionate. And this Sacral Chakra rules sexual energy. But again, I always like to say, and even Tantric philosophy says this, which I teach in my School of Light, and I will be reteaching a new kind of series from that, right? Because the first time that I taught all my classes, it was like without the logo, and it was all in 2020. So I've been having to do a lot of my classes over, editing it the right way, and I feel like I've just learned a lot. So I feel like I know I'm talking a lot, but like the whole year that I did my soul coaching brand and School of Light, you're gonna see that a lot of content has been erased, and it's because I was learning the information first, and I've like now been relearning it, but I now can teach it at a much powerful level and a more influential level and a more knowledgeable level, right? As a master, which is what all of us who are on the spiritual journey should be aspiring to reach, this state of mastering ourselves, our emotions, our craft, our spirituality, and then being that Zen, walking Zen embodiment of Christ, right? And so again, the sacral chakra rules sexual energy, which can be transmuted into creative energy. So if you give away your sexual energy unjustly, okay, bringing in Libra here, and to the wrong people or the wrong situation or whatever it might be, you're giving away creativity, okay? And I know that sounds harsh, but if you're not in a spiritual love union, you're better off being alone, okay? And I know that can be triggering and harsh to hear, because nobody wants to hear that they have to be alone. And you know, all of us want this connection, but it's not about being desperate about that connection and just being with whomever shows up for you first, right? I know that in 2020, a lot of people have lost this affection, especially for those who have been single during 2020, right? And maybe they had limited options during that time. There was a lot of desperate energy there. Others were in relationships that were not happy, and they stayed because of that, because they didn't want to risk being absolutely alone, because nobody knew what was happening next. And we still don't know what's going to happen next, right? We're still in this limbo worldwide about what's next, right? I intuitively already know that we're going to be fine, right? I've already been channeling all my journals for the next 4 years. So I know that it's okay to take some time to ourselves, and I know that it's okay to just take a step back as well from the world, because the world actually doesn't serve us a lot too much this time. And I know that sounds bad, but there's a lot of healing that's still taking place worldwide, a lot of purging from the dark experiences that people have dealt in 2020, the tragic moments, and it's spilling over into this year 2021. Okay, that's the word. It's spilling over, and it's gonna spill over even coming into 2022. But God is saying that 2022, all of that is abolished. It's like gonna be completely erased, because no more. It's like we're stepping into this new era that's golden. Nothing that's not golden cannot be there, right? Because it just won't fit through the gateway. Basically, it's this portal opening that have been opening these gateways that we've been having since August, actually. The 8-8 energy, then we had the 10-10 in October, which actually was just a few days ago. As I'm here filming, it's Saturday, so 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. We're in the 23rd of October. And in 10-10, there was something powerful, like a huge completion. Something completing to begin a new cycle. Okay, so this is this new cycle that we are entering, but it's not yet the new cycle. 11-11 is the new cycle for spiritual lovers, for the life of our dreams, because 11-11 is like the law of attraction number. It's the number of our dreams in numerology. It's keeping our thoughts positive, so attracting positive thoughts into our life by keeping them positive, right? And so whatever, again, the saying, what comes around goes around, and especially 11-11. So karmic justice is coming to the forefront November, next month, and end of this month. So that's the energy is what I'm feeling. So let's talk about Jesus. Let's switch the subject a bit. And make sure that you also, in my School of Light, if you are a member, you have access to all my weekly poetry readings. And yesterday we did a very powerful one. I filmed the love show yesterday, and a lot of knowledge came in. A lot of messages from lovers as well came in. I opened the book randomly to a random page, and there was a message there for us. So you definitely don't want to miss out on those series, as well as all my other series in my School of Light. My classes, it's for all ages, adults, young adults, kids, children, toddlers, right? Because they're never too early to start learning, and older people as well, right? In their older years. You know, I actually, believe it or not, because I'm like an old soul. I've always said this since, like, actually during my awakening, which is in 2019. I am an old soul because I can have very powerful conversations with people who are older. I feel like even though I'm young, I'm 32, gonna turn 33 very soon, I can't have quality conversations with young people. It bores me, and I'm not trying to sound rude, but it's just like there's just no quality in there. And it's just, you know, unless they're open to learning and you know, learning something deep and maybe listening to wisdom, because I have counseled children over many years, teenagers as well, who can be more rebellious, right, during those teenage years. But I do, you know, connect more with the older generation. And I feel like the older generation is very, very highly awakened during this time. And I can tell you because, you know, I have a grandmother who is obviously in her older ages, uncles and aunts who are like in their middle ages. There's still resistance in that generation, believe it or not. Like with my parents, not all my parents, for example, my parents not, but because I'm actually, you know, their daughter. But like others in their middle ages, I feel like there's just, I don't know. The thing, you know what the issue is? Anyone who's experiencing any kind of blockage when it comes to opening their mind to the higher realms is actually because sometimes they're just too busy worrying about the material realm, and there's just no time to be still, right? And again, this is where stillness comes in, where the power of now comes in. We need to slow down to be able to receive these messages. And that's what the middle age generation, so I'm talking about like 50 years and above, is missing. The needing to slow down. And even like the 40s as well, that would definitely fall into that category. But you know, the younger generation, which be people in their 20s and 30s, there's exceptions, okay? So there's exceptions in that era, because those would be more like the third wavelength, right? And the older generations would be the first wavelength, and those are the people who have definitely set the stage. But I do feel like it's the young generation that is more public about this whole spiritual journey, because they are the younger ones, and they just more freely, openly talk about it. Like, perfect example, myself, right? I have no fear of what I talk about, because I'm not afraid of like anything. There's no persecution during this time, and we have the freedom of speech, and this is art for me. You know, I make it very artistic and fun and entertaining. So yeah, I do feel like it's the younger generations who are really making powerful difference in this new world that we're entering into. And so let's talk about Jesus. I know I keep postponing this, but okay, so Jesus' life, when he was young, he was just this regular carpenter boy. But ever since he was a little boy, he was always being called into solitude, into the temple, to be with his heavenly Father, right? And his earthly mother and earthly father, which was Mary and Joseph, were always frantically looking for this little boy, because he would always just disappear out of nowhere. And of course, parents with a young child worry, where's my child, right? Because he could be in danger. But then when they come to find that he was just at the temple, it wasn't like they could castigate him or punish him, because he was with God, right? And it's an interesting story, because that's kind of how us light workers are when we go into hermit. You know, I go into hermit a lot, believe it or not, and it's been a kind of a really wild time in my life, because I've kind of separated from my family a lot, like prior than I was before, because, you know, now there's just so much to go into in the spiritual journey, and there's so many different directions that I'm always being called. It's like sometimes I have no free time for myself, again, my personal life, right? I'm always just doing mission. And I'm okay with it, because I'm devoted to God and this mission. But, you know, it's sometimes difficult for people outside to understand this. And that's where we just need to explain to them what we're dealing with, and just have compassion with their reaction, because that's not up to us. You know, it's never personal, right? And this is just about doing the mission, because, you know, life goes away just like that, and there's a lot to do and just so little time. So we need to focus on the mission. And so, that's what Jesus did from a young age. He was always studying as well. He actually, him and Mary did travel to Egypt for a while, and he was educated by these Egyptians who were very psychically aware. That's where the high priestesses were born from, right? And he was being taught how to be a healer. And that's when he came out of that, you want to say like retreat that he went to for a while. He came on this miraculous healer. That's when he started doing his miracle work. And that was like in his late 20s when he started to do that. When he went to Egypt, should I say. And, you know, before that, he was just a regular boy playing with the other boys in the neighborhood in Nazareth. And, you know, it was interesting because when he actually, there's a movie on the Young Messiah actually on Netflix. When he first fled to Egypt, which ended up being a blessing in disguise, right? Because he learned all these beautiful gifts and knowledge. He became very intelligent, right? And that's kind of how everything in life happens, right? Remember, life happens for you, not to you. There's never any setbacks, only comebacks in a way, right? Because you come back stronger, and it's a blessing in disguise. And the reason that he fled to Egypt in the first place was because he was being attacked by, you want to say like this, just devil energy. Literally, it was chasing him. In that movie, that's what the movie's about, right? The Young Messiah. It was chasing him and getting him into trouble. And so Mother Mary and Joseph were aware of this because Angel Gabriel showed up to them and revealed what was happening. So they had to flee because they had to protect Jesus, right? He was the future Messiah. And so they fled for quite some years. And then when he came back, that energy was gone. And he started just doing miracles. And people couldn't believe it. And sometimes the people from his hometown, which was Nazareth, they were actually very, very jealous and envious because they didn't want to believe that just a regular boy that grew up among them, the same as them, he was the chosen one, right? The Messiah. And that's what created the chaos and the conflict, and why he actually was basically betrayed, right? Because he was just doing miracles out of his beautiful heart, out of just pure innocence and purity, right? And he didn't want people to tell others that he was doing miracles. He wanted everyone to come and see it for themselves, right? He wasn't bragging about it, which is the difference as well between, you know, the ego and doing something out of truly love and your higher self. You don't brag about things like this. You just let it show for itself. And that's what Jesus was doing. He literally just wanted to heal because that was his mission. That's what he was being called to do. He wasn't doing it to get praise or recognition, or especially not worship. And so just the people, out of just word of mouth, started talking about him and sharing what he had done to them. Basically miraculously healed them from leprosy, which was a huge disease back in the day, right? And it's interesting that we've all gone through this kind of plague recently, but he was just healing them miraculously. And so back then there was no cure for that. And then that's how his word got around, his name. And then that's when it was, I believe, the Roman church that, you know, that's where the whole, you know, issue came in. And they went to Pontius Pilate, right? And they wanted to crucify him because they were saying that he was performing blasphemy, right? That he was the Messiah, the God, and they had another God. So that's where, like, you know, the whole story comes in, of like the Passion of Christ, right? Enter the new movie. And so that's kind of a metaphor for what happens sometimes to the good people. But that's over, okay? That's what this justice is about. The good is finally gonna win. The light will come shining through. That was Piscean age that happened, Jesus, believe it or not, okay? Now we're going into deep, deep history. But when Jesus was born as a human and in flesh on earth, it was during the Piscean age, which Piscean age, so the Pisces energy, it was the dark ages, okay? And it was about the dark ages when it comes to spirituality, because Pisces does rule spirituality, the spiritual journey, but it can also be very dark at the other end of the spectrum, right? It's like the polar opposite. And so that's what that whole era was about. And you see it clearly in history, right? Because after Jesus, It went on for centuries, and that's what an age is about, like a century, right? It was a whole century of spirituality being condoned and being pushed down and being neglected, being rejected. And now we are in the Aquarian age, and we're just in the beginning stages of it. So this is where the light's coming through now, because Aquarius energy is about revolution. It's about the switching around of an energy and the light coming through. It's the big star energy. It's like the star card in the tarot. It's the purification of this earth. And that's what this new earth is about. New earth is rising. And the only thing that's going to hold up in this new earth is high vibrations only. Love and light. Good intentions, good heart, pure heart, positive thoughts towards people, towards others, towards self, towards God, right? Towards your mission. Not complaining, but doing it with love. And, you know, that's beautiful, because this gives us reassurance, gives us a hope for the future, because the future has not even begun yet. We're just getting glimpses of the future. But the future is going to be better than ever. It's going to be the best that you've ever expected. The best is yet to come. And I know that this can sound, you know, like there's doubt in hearing this, but anything that's just been creating any kind of pain or suffering will be completely erased by the rainbow that comes after the storm, the light. God will find a way to erase all pain and suffering, because I know that this has been an issue in our personal lives, okay? And this is no way to live, God is telling us, because we don't deserve suffering when we're doing so much good for the world. And, you know, it kind of get me emotional, but I don't want to ruin my makeup. But it's true, you know, it's just not fair. And that's what Libra brings in, fairness. Finally, fairness for those who are good. And yeah, you know, let's see what else we need to talk about. Maybe I could bring in some messages. You know, I do want to mention that in my School of Light, there's a new series that I've just begun, which is the Holy Messages, the weekly Holy Messages. And these are the cards that I actually use for these messages, the words of Jesus. And I feel like Jesus has a message for us today. So maybe we do need to use these cards for today. And these are my holy cards. I have the 101 Bible promises and 101 phrases from the Psalms book, which are like praises to God. All right, so let's take a few and see what God wants to speak. Jesus here wants to tell us something. Right away, see? You have something to say. Whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me. He's talking about mission here. When we give, we will receive. And God is telling us that He will give us blessings. Unexpected surprises this month of October, because it is harvest season. It's time to receive these blessings and abundance. So get ready, because doors are opening. Opportunities will show up. These golden opportunities, and we cannot skip out on them. And we cannot let them pass through, because this is God's gift to us. That's like saying no to God, right? So say yes to life. Don't be afraid, just have faith. Whatever it is that you're dealing with, have faith. And don't be afraid, because remember, God is on our side. He's the most powerful force of all. And the universe also works for us, right? Because thoughts attract reality. So if we stay positive, we will attract positivity only. Okay, and we got the same card here. Wow, this is a beautiful one that we've never gotten. And this is our promise of spiritual ascension. You see, rejoice because your names are written in heaven. This is us leaving our legend here on earth, but in heaven our name is already there. It's like we're being waited on, basically. It's kind of like, you know, I was having a conversation the other day with someone older. Again, that's why I say I resonate with older people. But it was a very powerful message from heaven and Mother Mary. And you know, when we cross the other side, meaning after we, you know, basically pass away, what's on the other side is heaven. And on the other side, guess who's waiting? Is your family from heaven with open arms, your angels spreading their wings and waiting for you. And this is beautiful because there's nothing to worry about but celebrate, because this time's coming. Of course, when it's time, right? When the mission's completed, but there's no need to be afraid. Just have faith, because all is as it should be. It's already written in the stars. Faith and destiny is already written in stone. And there's no crossing that, because it's in stone. And actually, wow, you know, I've been really like into the Bible lately, always, right? But more, I've been watching Bible movies. And last Sunday, I actually rewatched this movie, The Exodus, with Christian Bale. Very powerful movie and very accurate about the book of Exodus in the Bible. And Moses, which is his story, he was being guided in just these crazy directions and being asked to do crazy things out of faith by this little boy who actually was a vision, but it was God speaking to him through this boy, right? And one of the final things that God asked him to do on his mission was to write the 10 Commandments on stone, right? Because he said, God told him that it's one thing to speak it, which can be erased and forgotten, but when you have it in stone, there's just no crossing it. It's there in stone, visibly to be seen. It's alchemized. It's anchored on earth. It's grounded. And that's what God is helping us to all do with these dreams that really are just mission work. Any dreams that we have in our heart, they're not selfish, because it's for something greater. And that's the kind of mentality that you need to have. If you find that whatever dream you have is purely for self, then you know that's your ego driving you, and that's not of God. And it won't be supported by the light, because that's not what mission's about, right? Mission is about for something greater. It's about the collective leaving something behind, a legend, but not a legend under our name, but a legacy of light. Always honoring God and giving credit to Him for being that guidance, that way shower, and making it happen, right? Because as humans, we cannot even do it alone. Take Moses' story, for example. You think that he would have been able to bring all of those millions of Egyptians who were enslaved by the Egyptian Pharaoh on his own, without God's help, without those catastrophes that happened to that kingdom of Egypt? It was God who did that, who allowed him then, basically forced the greedy Pharaoh to let go of the slaves, because he was holding on too tight. He was greedy, he was in sin, and he paid the price for it, right? He lost his child as a result. And that was all God's work. Moses couldn't do all that. Moses couldn't create a storm. Moses couldn't create all those catastrophes and plagues that they dealt with. And even though the good people did suffer a bit, the biggest of all catastrophes, the good people were shielded from, right? The last plague that happened in the book of Exodus was that all the sons, basically, all the baby sons died, only of Egyptian lineage, not the ones that were Hebrew. All the Hebrew boys survived. And that's the greatest of them all, right? Because everyone can deal with a little bit of frogs, storms, and bees that were the first plagues that they were dealing with. And everybody suffered from that to some extent, kind of like any plague, right? We all kind of, even good people suffered from this. So like I said, right, even the good people suffered. But when it comes to the big, greater things, I guess, greater tragic situations, like mothers losing their boys, right? And in fact, not every Egyptian was also bad. So that's something that all the Egyptians suffered as a result, because of that greedy Pharaoh. So that's just a symbolism that God is wanting me to close out now. But that, sometimes life can be unfair, but guess what? In heaven, you will be retributed, right? Like, you will be blessed, is the word. You will be blessed and untouchable, basically, right? And so that is the way that we're going to end today's fashion show red carpet event. It was an intense conversation today. And, please share this if you find that someone can really benefit from this knowledge, this wisdom. I only seek to help. And I really want to say a prayer, end a prayer today for all of us, to Archangel Shamuel. I've been learning about my angels a lot, really connecting with them. I'm creating an oracle card deck just about these archangels, messages from them that we will be adding soon in our daily morning spiritual guidance. And of course, also check out my angel study class in my School of Light. But I want to dedicate a prayer to Archangel Chamuel today. Dear Archangel Chamuel, please help us to find what we are deeply seeking in our heart and soul on this earth. And if it's not on this earth, at least in the afterlife, in heaven. May we find what we seek. May we find that missing piece to our life in our heart and soul. And may we all be blessed and in the light. And thank you for finding solutions to chaos and healing to all situations. And thank you, Archangel Chamuel, God, and everyone else. Namaste.